Good evening, everyone, and welcome to District's 38 event with Brahm. I'd like to begin by introducing him. Brahm has been a Toastmaster for 28 years with 3 Distinguished Toastmasters Awards. He is a leadership coach and trainer, consulting and training in large organizations and offering personal online training courses that have transformed lives and organizations globally. His passion for leadership development shines through his large-scale, high-performance leadership projects, which has impacted thousands of Toastmasters since the pandemic 4 years ago. He's also a Club Coach of the Year in Toastmasters District 86. He is founder of Leaders Speak, an advanced Toastmasters club with over 57 members from 27 countries. Since its charter in February 2022 during the pandemic, Leadership Speak has attained the spot of the top club globally in 2 short years. His professional coaching program, Pro Speak and Lead, has consistently received 5-star ratings, a testament to its effectiveness and the satisfaction of its participant. Please help me welcome Brahm Memone.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Anne? Yes, you can all hear me. Perfect. Awesome.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me here in the District 38, which is, I believe, North Carolina and the surrounding areas. I am from Canada. I live in a city called Mississauga, which is next to Toronto. So we are in the same time zone. So because there's just a few people and Anne said there's about 40 people who would sign in, so I'll just ramble on for a couple of seconds. But I'm supposed to be actually catching your attention at the same time, right? There's also grab the audience's attention. So how am I going to do that? Okay, so let's try a trick here or two. Put in the chat what's your expectation or what you expect to find today in finding your voice. Like, are you here to find your voice? Haven't you found your voice already? Aren't you speaking in Toastmasters? So what are you looking for today? So let's put that in the chat and let's have a conversation. I hope that is a good starter to warm you up into grabbing your attention and interacting with me. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Fame and fortune. How to improve getting the audience's attention at the beginning of a speech. All right. Okay. Very apt. How do we grab audience's attention? Okay, what else? I think that speech better. Okay, Deanna, explain yourself. What do you mean by I think speech better? What does it mean? So while we are doing that, of course, I like to stand up when I'm talking, so I'll put away my chair. I would like to learn a new format for speech evaluations. How to energize an audience. Looking for tips for improvement. Okay. Learning how to hook. I like that. Now, of course, let me just set up my camera a bit better so that you can see me. This is better. You can see the ceiling. That's good. My camera is has gone a bit crazy. I have an authentic voice. Somebody stays here. Let's have a read. Okay, where is it? Where is that authentic voice? I have an authentic voice, but it doesn't seem to come out when I'm speaking in front of a group. What does the authenticity really mean, Gina Whitney? All right, we'll have a look at that. Actually, that is one of the key things we'll be looking at. Confidence is communicating in a corporate setting. Well, if you're confident, it doesn't matter where you are, you're confident. It means, you know, depending on the audience you're standing in front of, something's going on in your mind mentally, and so you lose your confidence because you think they're better than you, or that you are not familiar with the surroundings and with the audience, and so you make up something in your mind and you react from that perception. It's really a perception. So it's really a changing the mindset, and we'll be talking about changing mindsets quite a bit today. 80% of anything about public speaking is changing your mindset. So we'll be talking a lot about that. Awesome, fantastic. Looking for tips for improvement? Oh my, everything will be a tip here. You might tip over with that. Friend smiley. Okay, a friendly smile. I don't know. Friend smiley. All right. What about you, Hannah? Oh, by the way, Hannah is in Angola. It's 12:36 at night for her. She woke up just to be in the meeting here. So thank you, Hannah, for coming. She's in leadership speak with me in my club. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what we can do together here based on what you've told me here. Speech energy. Okay, well, let me try and do some of my own energy. All right. Okay, let me see if I can share some sounds here. All right. And let's see if we can spotlight myself. And can you spotlight me? Am I spotlighted? Wonderful. Oh, you made me a host as well. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, number one thing is, of course, I'm here serving, right? This is a service to District 38 and to everyone who's here. So I don't like to speak to a blank screen. How does a speaker become effective is when he can see their audience. And since all of you have your videos off, I can't see your audience, so I won't be effective in doing whatever I'm doing here.
When you use that,
unless you
don't fill those things up all the way because you have to lift them up and throw them away.
I'll be sure not to do that.
So if you can all put on your all videos, that'd be great. I don't know what's going on. Did Anne, did you switch off their videos by any chance or something? Or
I don't know what I did. Oh, boy. Make you go. Yes. You know what? I just made you co-host and
All
add
right. Oh, very good.
spotlight.
They're all
and
back.
All right, and
I
remove
can see
my
all the videos
spotlight.
back. All right, I'm good. All right, now I can see people. Thank you so much. And if you can all put on your videos, some of you have put on your videos, I can see you. Thank you so much because it gives me the energy to begin giving you energy so that I can receive energy back when I see your smiles, right? That works very well. Would you agree? I mean, would you
Yes.
agree as Toastmasters, if you see your audience, the presentation is very different than when you don't see your audience, right? Make some noise, shout out, let's have a conversation here. Just say anything you need to. I don't like a dead audience here. So do you agree, right?
Yes, he wants
Video should be
participation.
on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He wants,
Absolutely.
Yes.
he wants your microphone
Yes.
on.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. Wonderful. Now,
Hello.
give a
Hello.
shout out to somebody whose video is off and tell them, please put on your video. All right. So I will say, for example, Andre, put on your video. So choose
Christina,
a name and tell them, put on your video.
Christina, put on your video.
All right.
Joe
There's
Barron,
one-
put on your video.
Evelyn,
Evelyn.
put on your video.
Allie Blakeman, put on your video.
is on.
Joshua Smith, put your video on.
Farrat, put on your video. Joshua
My
Smith.
video is on. I can see myself, but I cannot see the other members.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
are
it's
you in gallery
different.
mode?
I think it's yeah.
If you
You
put
can't
yourself
see
in
me,
gallery
Emmerich? I've got
No.
my video on.
Nope.
I
Oh.
can't see you either, Emmerich. Do you have your video on?
I sure do.
All right. Thank you so much. I can see a lot more videos come on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are. The secrets to finding your authentic voice. So thank you for helping me in finding the authentic voice by helping each other put on their videos. Here's a few things that we'll cover, or what I would like to say is simply this: when you are crafting your speech, when you are crafting any presentation, when you are having an important conversation with your colleagues, this is how you would craft it, right? The craft is that, of course.
Email from Lance McMahon regarding Toastmasters.
So while I'm speaking, it's okay if you can mute your microphones. But before I say this, I just wanted to say there is magic in a 7-minute speech whenever our Toastmaster takes the stage. Magic can be created in 7 minutes because in 7 minutes, what can we do? We can change minds, we can move minds, we can influence minds, inspire, inform, persuade people, but we need to know how to do that. And this is what we're going to cover in detail. In 7 minutes, you can find your voice. Now, is that true that in 7 minutes you can find your voice? Well, 7 minutes cumulatively, consistency, frequency, right? In 7 minutes, only once a lifetime isn't going to give you anything. And if you're just going to speak for 7 minutes, in between your 7 minutes on stage, you'll be practicing. Usain Bolt is a sprinter from Jamaica, was a sprinter, it's retired now. I heard that he only ran about 12 minutes in his whole lifetime. 12 minutes in total, and made multi-million dollars and many gold medals and awards and so on. Now, why did he run at the most about 10, 12 minutes? Well, he was running 100 meters in 9 seconds. Now, figure out 12 minutes at 9 seconds each time. How many speeches would that be if it was 7-minute speeches and you spoke for 100 hours? And in between, what would you do those 7 minutes? If you've been a Toastmaster for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, how many speeches have you done? Have you improved? And are you going to keep improving along the way? So what are you doing in between your speeches is very, very important in finding your authentic voice. That's the first thing. Are you planning? Are you practicing? Are you preparing before you come on stage? Before I came here, this presentation was prepared months in advance, and refined and tuned, and I spent several days here specifically tuning it for you so that I could present it to you. Now, here are a few things that you have to look at before you present to an audience, which is what I was just saying before this. Whether it's to one person or to several people, you need to have that confidence. You need to speak with conviction. You need to have credibility. Why credibility? Because you want to create trust. Credibility means creating trust with the people that you are speaking to. Therefore, you need to be planning and preparing, whether it's to one person, 10 people, or 100 people. I'm not talking of casual conversations with your friends while you're having a coffee with your family, right? I'm talking about conversations and communication that are very, very important to your career or to what you're doing in life, and something that will give you progress further up, right, in life. And in any conversation that you're preparing for, it needs critical thinking. How you're going to put your content together, what you're going to say, what are you going to conclude with, especially what you're going to conclude with, and therefore how you're going to begin that conversation, how you're going to grab their attention, what will be the title of your conversation. Now, when I say conversation, I mean speech or a conversation, depending on where you are, what audience you have, right? And therefore, the clarity that you bring to the table. This is a trait of a leader. So when we say where leaders are made, if you are preparing your speeches well and you're thinking in these terms, then you're a leader, because this is what leaders do. That's why this is where leaders are made. So how do you create that magic with anyone? Whether it's one person, 100 people, 2,000 people, 30,000 people. The first thing is, what do I want to say? What do I want to say? Now, before I came here to this particular audience, I knew what I wanted to say because I prepared for it, and I practiced it several times. I practiced it this morning several times, what I wanted to say here today. Who is it for? This is for Toastmasters in District 38. That is who it is for currently, today. Sometimes it could be for a corporate club. Sometimes it is for a big organization. Sometimes it is, as it was this afternoon, I had a big event where there were over 90 people. It was a Toastmasters global event. It was open to all Toastmasters for free. So I knew who the audience was and I was prepared accordingly. Why do I want to say whatever I want to say in this particular presentation? I had a meeting with Anne and we discussed thoroughly as to what her expectations were today. And based on that, I prepared what I wanted to say today. When I'm invited by a club to speak, even if there's 10 people in that club, I will say, can we meet and can we discuss what you want me to come and speak about? I do that so that I'm covering all these questions. When you're preparing your speech, when you're preparing a conversation, you need to make sure that you're covering these questions. And of course, the most important thing is, what are you going to leave the audience with? What is the audience's takeaway? It is always, always about the audience, always. If it is only about you and it's like you're indulging in yourself and I say, I did this and I did that and I had a great time. After a few minutes, the audience will get bored. Just, come on, what's it for the audience, right? So it is always, remember, about the audience. What is the audience's takeaway at the end? All presentations must be about the audience. If you're making a presentation to one person, having a conversation with your boss, with your colleague, with your peers at work, the presentation must be about what can I give, what can I add value to this person? What can I take away from this conversation? Now you're beginning to think like a leader. You're not just standing up and doing a speech. This is where leaders are made, right? So, how the presentation is structured. Any presentation, how is it structured? The first thing is the conclusion. What is the call to action? What do I want this person to do? What do I want this group of people to do? What I want this organization to do? What is the mandate here? How are we going? What's the direction? How are we going to progress from here? Conclusion, the call to action, the most important part of a presentation or a conversation. What will be the call to action? And based on that, how are you going to open the conversation? And based on the opening, how are you going to construct the subsequent points so that you will reach the conclusion, the conclusion that you know that you want to have with the audience? What's that conclusion? What are they going to take away? Based on the opening as well, the title of your presentation, if it is a presentation to a group of people and they expect a title, make sure that the title makes sense to the audience and they're engaged with the title. So those are the important things. And I find, and I've been a Toastmaster for 28 years. And I find seriously the one thing that is missing is the call to action. What is the audience's takeaway and what are they going to do with that information that you're giving them? And what sort of information is it? We'll get into that in a second. What sort of information are you giving them? And therefore, how are you going to open or how are you going to construct and therefore come to that conclusion, the predetermined conclusion that you wanted them to have? And here it is. What is the presentation about? Is the presentation about informing, inspiring, motivating, persuading, or entertaining? What is the intent of the presentation? Now, do you understand why we all need to prepare, to plan, to prepare beforehand and to practice presentations, right? And that is when you begin to find your authentic voice, because when you are spending time, or should I say investing time in your presentation with this in mind, Would you make a powerful presentation or a better presentation? Yes, you would. You would agree, right? So this is one of the ways of finding your voice. It is when there's the call to action, for example, what you're doing is there's a message that is within you that you want to give the audience. What's that message? What is that message they want to take away? And that message had better be authentic, that you can relate to. It's not something just you read up in a book and then you just regurgitate it. If it is not part of your experience, if it is not part of your experience, it is not authentic. Or if it's not part of your knowledge base, even if it's not your experience, if it's not part of your knowledge base and part of your wisdom and what you've learned, and you really understand it truly, deeply, it's ingrained in and inherent within you, you are not going to be authentic. And your audience will get it. So this is all about authenticity, because I know quite a number of people had asked questions about how to be authentic. And this is the start of authenticity in our speaking. 1 person conversation, 10 people presentation, 10,000 people presentation or keynote. This is the key to the audience engagement and takeaway. So then we need to sort of break through the glass ceiling then, I would say. Because there is a glass ceiling. I find that when I visit Toastmasters Club, and I get invited to a lot of Toastmasters Club, and I hear speakers speak, they've been there for 5 years, 10 years or so, and sometimes even more. But if I heard them 5 years ago and I listened to them 5 years later, they're still doing the same type of speech. There's a glass ceiling. They haven't broken through that glass ceiling, ladies and gentlemen. And it's very important. To break through that glass ceiling. And that glass ceiling is just our mindset. How much time am I willing to spend learning how to change what's going on within me so that I can make a different type of presentation? Now, if you'd asked me 4.5 years ago if I could do a presentation like this, I would say no, because we were not on Zoom. And even when we got on Zoom 4.5 years ago, pandemic, remember the pandemic, and we had to get on Zoom and or online, right? Was I doing a presentation like this? No, I wasn't. And did I have to sort of practice and find out and hone in what I'm doing currently? Did I have to break through several glass ceilings? Yes. Mastery or the mindset is always about climbing up a steep incline, coming to a plateau, and it's okay. You come to a plateau, you rest and you look around, take a breather, and then there's the next hill to climb, the next glass ceiling to break, right? And the next limitation to overcome, and the next steep hill to climb, and the next peak to conquer. And it is all in our mindset, which means what? You are as good as your last evaluation. You're as good as your last evaluation that you received. And if you don't incorporate what you've received into your next presentation, which means you have to spend time planning, preparing, practicing, and then delivering the presentation. You're working on your mindset. You are internalizing and growing, and growth needs time to reflect and time to spend on what am I doing now that will take me to the next level. And so this sort of presentation that I am doing, I had to do that, practice that over and over again for the past 4.5 years. That's why I've been able to speak to thousands of Toastmasters. Actually, they've come to my events, thousands of them, not me going to speak to clubs. They've come to my events because of how I've honed in my skill in Zoom and in my presentations. I had to do a lot of internalizing of new skills and change my mindset about online presentations from a physical place, right? So it's always that space, the 6-inch space between our ears that we have to change. mindset. When we work on our mindsets, ladies and gentlemen, we begin to have breakthroughs to the next level. And then when we come across the next limitation, and then we take a rest and we come to the next limitation, we take a rest and break through and come to the next limitation, is key to growth. Will I ever reach mastery? I may get very good, but mastery is an illusion, right? You can always get better and better and better and better at something. And if you come to a place where you can't get any better, then you better reinvent yourself to the next thing that you can do, and take your skills there and go for the next limitation that you need to break through. Breakthrough is the key word in developing your mindset. That is how we find our authentic voice. Now, here's the thing. Those people who recognize this particular picture, George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw was a playwright. Approximately 1865, I believe he was born in, until 1950 something, 55, 60 something. He was 95 years old anyways, or 96, 97 before when he passed away. Great plays. Some of you will remember the play Pygmalion, which was made into a movie called My Fair Lady. Some of you perhaps have read his plays in school or actually been in his plays, right? Now, this is what he said in one of his plays. The single biggest problem in communication is the result that it has taken place. Now, guess what is the key word? We are in Toastmasters, right? And the key word is communication. Absolutely. And so when we are communicating, and sometimes we don't move the audience, we have to wonder what we are doing. How are we communicating to the audience? Whether it is one person conversation, 10 people conversation, 1,000 or 10,000 people conversation or presentation or keynote, how are we communicating? This is the key word. Because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, in any communication, we need to connect with our audience. And how we connect with our audience is the single most important thing that you need to learn. We need to learn consistently on a constant basis. How you connect with one person is going to be different than how you connect with 10 people. Is going to be different than how you connect with 10,000 or 100,000 people, right? It is that confidence. Whether you're talking in a corporate environment in front of a corporate audience, and that confidence you need to connect with the corporate audience, it is that connection and how you're going to communicate and how you're going to prepare before. So finding your authentic voice, ladies and gentlemen, is simply this. Are you communicating to connect? Both verbal and non-verbal cues. So important to understand both those things. Both verbal and non-verbal cues. How I'm speaking, how I'm gesturing, how I'm looking at the camera, or if I'm in a physical space, how I'm moving in this physical space, right? If I move in the physical space, how I'm moving there, how I'm looking at the audience, how is the audience looking at me? Am I moving with confidence? What is my body language? And my tone of the voice, whether I'm raising it, whether I'm pausing for attention, come back to me, right? And so on. So those are the things that need consistent practice. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. However, in communication, why did George Bernard Shaw say that in communication, we think we are communicating, but are we really communicating? So because there's this invisible wall that I've made visible. There's an invisible wall between your communication and the connection you're making with your audience. And that is what we have to break down, this barrier. between us and the audience. Because words can flow through our mouth, these words can come and they will hit this barrier and break down. And what will happen to the connection? There will be hardly much connection because there's interference happening in our minds. There's filters through which we are speaking. We need to understand what those filters are, that fear of being judged, that high need for validation, that high need to avoid rejection. Those are the things that are going on in our communication and we don't even know it. And sometimes when we are first speaking, if it was your first icebreaker, you know, I know, we all know, most of us know. In our very first speech ever that we did, there was so much interference going on, right? And we've seen speakers who've gone through halfway through the speech, come to a dead stop and didn't know what else to say and walk off. I was just talking to Luisa Montalvo the other day because she's coming to an event I'm doing later on this October. And she said she was in a district contest at the district level a few years back. And it was a contest, international speech contest. And she was speaking. And halfway through, she froze and went blank completely and had to walk off the stage. It happens to all of us. And today, Luisa Montalvo, you all know, is the world champion of public speaking in 2024. She had to overcome the interferences and she had to overcome how to connect with the audience. If you were there in August, if you watched her speech online, she connects with her audience and she has garnered and gotten how to connect without using too much dramatics or theatrics as well, which is my pet peeve, actually, as to why do we have to use too much theatrical, dramatic role-playing to get attention? We don't need to. All right. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's a key in your brain. There's a key in your head that you need to sharpen and clean and make sure that it fits. A key is always going to fit a lock, right? That's what a key is for. You have the key, but you have to know what key it is and where it is. And is it the right key? Has the key been cut to the right dimension so it can fit the lock? And why does it need to fit the lock? Because you need to influence your audience. You need to inspire your audience, or in my case right now, I hope I'm informing my audience and hopefully perhaps as well inspire, motivate the audience or persuade your audience or even entertain them. What is that key? So you have to know what you're going to be doing with your audience. Besides the conclusion and the takeaway, what are you doing with the audience? Which one of this is it that you're going to do? What sort of key do you need for that particular lock, right? Would you agree? You can't just take any key and open any lock. So to connect with your audience, ladies and gentlemen, where your audience has that lock, that key needs to fit that lock. It is that simple. And voila, we need to open that lock. When we know whether I'm going to inform, influence, motivate, persuade, entertain, what am I doing with my audience? What will the takeaway will be? What is the conclusion about? And based on that, how I'm going to craft my presentation, how I'm going to open my presentation, what's going to be my title, how I'm going to sort of make sure that the layers of different points that take me to the conclusion are all coherent, right? And understandable and simplified for the audience. And that is when I begin to develop my authentic voice, because now I'm spending time understanding the dynamics of what I'm going to be presenting and what is the intent and how I'm going to be delivering it. How many of you here, and I've been very guilty, and I see that a lot even in my Advanced Toastmasters Club, people are writing their speech the day before, the night before, 2 days before, they're going to deliver the speech. And they can be speaking for 10 years, 20 years, but if you are doing that for 2 days or a day before writing your speech, first of all, you haven't followed Pathways project, which is a project, and you have to read the whole project, which takes time. You haven't done that. If you're not doing that, then you haven't done that, right? If you're writing your speech a day or two before, and you're not developing all these tools that I'm talking about. So guess what? You need to understand all the dynamics of finding your authentic voice by these simple tools that I just said, which you thought, oh, I knew that. Yeah, for sure you knew that, but now put it into practice. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the key thing about presentations. To developing that authentic voice to inspire your audience, be inspired yourself. To motivate your audience or to influence your audience, be influenced or be motivated. To persuade your audience, you be persuaded first. To move an audience, you need to be moved. What does that mean? That means you have to feel and experience what you intend your audience to feel and experience in that moment in time. If you are telling a story, if you're telling something to your audience, you need to feel what you had felt at that time, when the story took place. You go to feel that right now while you're delivering your speech. You go to say the words that you heard when you were in that particular place at that time. You go to say the same sort of words and experience the same things. That's when your audience gets you and gets the emotion. That's right, the emotion. When you begin to feel and experience what you intend your audience to feel and experience at the time of delivery, your audience will get it. And whether you're being inspired, influenced, motivated, or moved or persuaded, whatever it is, that has to be present in your speaking, in your tone, in the type of words that you're going to choose for the audience. That is how you find your authentic voice and move audiences, and the audience will get what they came for at the end and take away and use it. Audiences take away. All because you want to connect with the audience first. Connection is key. Now, let's talk a little bit about the other, more about connection in terms of, I did mention the word emotion, right? So, connect with your audience emotionally, where possible, right? Emotions are invisible. How can you have that emotion that you can convey to your audience? You need to feel that emotion while you're delivering it. At that particular point in time, it's invisible. But you have to feel the feelings at that time, which means you have to be in character, right? I hope I'm feeling a bit inspired myself. Hopefully you are feeling a bit inspired. And you begin to experience at the time of delivery what you want to convey that emotion for the audience. So when you are going through that at the time of delivery, your audience will get it. Always have that emotion that is there in that particular point in time in your story. Have that present. I mean not pantomime or not dramatic or not made up. You know, I have people who I've seen people who do speeches, you know, and I coach quite a number of people in their speaking. And this will say, and I came home and I saw my wife and I started crying, you know, and they're just, there's just pantomime, and they're not really crying. They don't feel the emotion, right? And they're just going through the motions of, oh, I'm crying. It's like, you know, little children just playing around, right? If you are talking about crying, then feel that sadness within you. If you're something happy, feel that happiness that comes out in your voice, right? And don't over dramatize. You know, I've been to certain speeches where They're so over dramatizing. I told my brother, what the heck are you doing? And my brother said, hey, little boy, what do you grow up and then you'll see like me. No, not necessary. Not necessary. If you go to a TED talk, and most of you have seen a TED talk anyways on YouTube, they stand on a little red circle. They don't move around much. They don't have too many gestures. Yet they are so effective at what they do. So next time you're thinking of doing a speech with role playing or emotion, make sure that is consistent with the message at the end. It's not over dramatized, and it is relevant and congruent and aligned to your message and to your speech and presentation and how it's created and crafted. I think over dramatization has entered into Toastmasters quite a bit to get attention and grab attention. It doesn't really do much. But then everything that I say is just my story. It's up to you in the end how you take that. The number two thing is, after emotion, is the logic. Logic has to be present in terms of where did these facts come from? Where is the data? Right? What evidence am I presenting here? Where did I get this particular information from? If you're quoting somebody, or if you're quoting some data or statistics or so on, you've done some research work, quote that research. Quote the person you're quoting. Make sure they are experts. Make sure that it is data and evidence that is very well known and it is proved to be right, and not just any data or any information that you picked up from Facebook. And there's a lot of information out there that is it's disinformation. As you know, these days anybody can post anything. So make sure you check your sources, right? If it is like the Harvard Medical Journal, sure, I would accept that, or the New England Medical Journal, I mean, the Harvard Business Review. I would accept that. But if it is like somebody somewhere said, I read it, and this scientist was saying this, and it's true, yeah. And then I'll say, no, that's not evidence, that's not data, and it's not backed up, and I don't believe your speech. And after that, it all goes downhill, whatever you're presenting. And you lose your authenticity and your voice. So the emotion and the logic have to go together hand in hand, and it has to be congruent and aligned as you deliver it. Plus, the critical thinking that's involved in crafting the whole presentation. Critical thinking is the number one skill a leader needs to have, or anybody who's making a presentation, anyone who's having a conversation that's going to make a difference, has to have critical thinking. And a lot of critical thinking these days is missing because of all the disinformation. We just believe about anything that comes along our way. And we have very little critical thinking. We're just trying to put things together. We go to artificial intelligence, right? And say, artificial intelligence, here, put together a presentation for me. And then you come out and regurgitate that presentation. It means nothing to anyone, unless you've done your critical thinking and crafting the presentation and how it's going to do what it's going to do for the audience and their audience's takeaway at the end. That's involved critical thinking. Is very much lacking today, so you need to spend time crafting your presentation. Even if it is your 7-minute speech in your Toastmasters, it is your level 1 speech, take your time to prepare that presentation and involve some critical thinking. Sure, use artificial intelligence to get ideas, but not to sort of borrow everything the artificial intelligence tells you and put it in your presentation and just regurgitate it. It's not going to work. Disclaimer, none of this or any of this presentation was I didn't have a conversation with any artificial intelligence at all for this particular presentation. None. Zero. No conversation with any artificial intelligence at all. So, ladies and gentlemen, mindset is key factor in what you do to make a presentation. It's all here. And how much time you're going to spend reflecting and crafting, and then taking that feedback and incorporating that feedback back into your next presentation, and getting ingrained in the foundational key skills, which I'll go into in a second, which is the skill set. How you convey your message, of course, just as an overview of the mindset. How you convey your message, your authenticity, the value you're going to add to your audience, and how you take charge of your presentation is going to be important in how you begin to shift your mindset and your limitations and break through the glass ceiling to the next level. And this is how you're going to reframe your Toastmasters experience from henceforth when you're creating a presentation, not only in Toastmasters, but outside in the real world. And that is the path to mastery. So then we come to the skill set. And I've talked about mindset quite a lot, but as you can see, I'm using some skill set here. I've got some skills in terms of how I'm looking at the camera, I'm moving around. This is all skills, right? And skills can be taught very easily as compared to what we're going to do with our minds. And most of our training is focused out there on skills rather than our minds. But if you are consistent and you speak frequently, consistently going to your Toastmasters club, not only the day that you have a role, but you just turn up even when you have no role at all and watch what's going on and take notes and frequently speak, frequently take on roles, that's when you improve your skill set and immerse yourself in the Toastmasters program. What are the key foundational skills for any Toastmaster? Anyone here? Put it in the chat. I'm just looking at the chat. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, what is the key skill sets, the foundational key skill sets of a Toastmaster? Like gestures would be one, eye contact would be other, right? These are the key foundational skills, right? That you have to learn when you're doing your pathways level 1, right? Some of the key skill sets are like vocal variety. Then in level 3, there's more key skill sets. Vocal variety, gestures, eye contact, and all that, and storytelling and inspiring your audience. But exactly, vocal variety and so on. I can see that. Thank you, Anne. So let's get this right. The voice modulation is one of the key foundational skill sets: eye contact, gestures, body movement, and the emotion that goes with the voice modulation, eye contact, gestures, and body movement. What sort of emotion are you conveying? If I was conveying something sad, my voice would drop and I would get closer to the camera, perhaps be a bit sad and say something. If I was happy, I would just move away and raise my voice, right, and say something that I have to say with excitement, and my eye contact would be different, and my gestures would be different, and my body movement would be different as compared to, of course, when I'm not happy, and so on. What am I conveying? And whether I'm inspiring or informing or persuading or entertaining, the gestures would be different, the movement would be different, right? And so these are the key foundational skill sets that you should downpack within the first 6 months of being in a Toastmasters club. I find that people are doing their 100th speech 10 years down the road, and they're still getting an evaluation of Could you move your body a little bit more? And could you modulate your voice a bit more here, or do your gestures, or look at the camera here, or look at the audience and move on the stage here, there, wherever. I would suggest strongly take one speech and repeat it 10 times. First with, okay, say I will practice body movement, and so just gestures or body movement, and practice the speech with that. Then take that speech and do gestures with it. Then take that speech and just do eye contact. Then take that speech and do voice modulation, pause, whatever. Here's the thing. How many times does a world champion of public speaking practice that one speech? Anyone? Put that in the chat. How many times do you think they practice one speech to get to be a world champion of public speaking? 5 times is wrong. 30, yes. 20, perhaps. 100, yes. 1,000, I don't know, I haven't heard. But I've heard of 100, 200 times, yes. Griselle, thank you. That is the reason why I'm saying take that one speech, right? And use it and do in level 3 several of those like storytelling, inspire your audience, body gestures or movement, and God knows whatever there is, right, in level 3, and take that one speech and do it several times. And make sure that you talk to your evaluator beforehand and say why you're doing the same speech, but with what aspect, because you want to get grounded in the key foundational skills. And once you are grounded in the key foundational skills and you're comfortable with those, then you can pick up any speech anytime, and you don't have to relearn all those things. I find that every time a Toastmaster does a speech, they're doing a brand new speech every time. For 10 years, they're doing a speech, they're doing the 100th speech, they're researching the 100th speech, and now saying, okay, where shall I pose now? Where shall I look at the camera? Where am I going to pose 10 years down the road? Why? No. I would say don't do that. Everything that I'm saying is my opinion, of course. I leave it to you what you want to do with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're grounded in the key skills, like I don't practice my voice modulation, eye contact, gestures, body movement, and things like that every time I do a new presentation. And I don't invent new presentations as it is in any case. I have certain presentations that I'll mix and match like a modulation when I'm called out to speak in organizations or in other Toastmasters Club, or including this particular presentation. It's modular. And I said, what does this club need? And I didn't have to practice every little bit of it along the way, because I now am grounded in my foundational skills. As soon as I see something, it's so instinctual, it's so ingrained that I just come up with the right gesture, the right emotion, the right way of saying it. I might have to sort of go through the presentation and sort of visualize it first, of course, but very quickly, and then I'm ready, right? But then that's because I've done the presentation many times and I'm just doing a modular fashion. Now, if it's a brand new presentation, I will still do it well beforehand and make sure that I know what I'm doing. But I don't need to know and understand where I'm going to pose, how I'm going to pose, every little tiniest bit. I don't need to do that. So my practice time is now cut short. It's not as much as it used to be, because now I have gotten the skill. So, ladies and gentlemen, your mindset is 80%. How are you going to plan? How are you going to prepare? And how are you going to practice? Once you've gotten that correct, which is 80% of the work, the 20% is really the skill set. And that is like riding a bicycle. See, when you first started to ride a bicycle, for those of you who learned how to swim, when you first started how to swim, you were afraid of the water. You didn't know balance on a bicycle, right? And you had to overcome something here rather than the skill. The skill was very easy. You started paddling, you didn't fall, but you fell. There was something that wasn't clicking in here. right? And in your muscles and the muscle memory that you had to sort of create. Something that told your whole body that it's okay, you can balance it. As soon as you pedal, you'll be fine. Or if somebody threw in the deep water, once you've learned how to swim, you knew that if you didn't struggle, you just were still, you just all of a sudden float. Magic. And so it is, ladies and gentlemen, with speaking. Once you conquer your mind and once you really spend time in planning, preparing, presenting, and understanding whether you're informing, whether you're motivating, what are you doing with the speech, what's the audience's conclusion, how are you going to craft that speech, and then, of course, getting ingrained in the foundational skill sets, which is riding a bicycle is like, okay, if I pedal faster enough, the bicycle will stand, it won't fall down, really. And then I just have to need to learn a few other tricks, when to change the gear of the bicycle, when I'm going uphill or downhill, or on a straight flat surface, what sort of speed I need, what sort of helmet do I need if I'm if I'm in a race, you know, what sort of clothing do I have to wear? Those are the different skill sets. So the main thing was the mindset to overcome this thing here. First, the balance, how to balance on a bicycle, how to stand up and speak in front of an audience so that they can get informed, motivated, persuaded, inspired, influenced, entertained. Once I have downpacked that, and the skill set of when to pose, when to sort of have gestures, when to do the emotion right, my voice modulation, when can I pose and look at the audience so that I can get your attention, ladies and gentlemen, that is effective communication. That is when I have really found my authentic voice. Then even if I don't speak for 20 years, I will still have my authentic voice. I have found my voice. I know how to ride my bicycle, my communication bicycle. So from being self-centered is only about me to the audience, being audience-centered is always, always about the audience. So do I need to spend time for the audience, even if it's in my Toastmasters club? Yes, because all the guests and all the other members, I'm serving them when I'm doing a presentation. It's not about me, it's about the members of the club. It is the guests who come there, right? And I have to unlearn and let go of a lot of stuff that's here so that I can learn how to balance on a bicycle, or I can learn to stand up and speak to an audience with confidence, with conviction, with credibility, because there was critical thinking involved in putting together my presentation. And now there's clarity for the audience, and the audience has a takeaway. And that's called transformation. We are truly in a transformational learning environment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is finding your voice. A Toastmasters club is not a club, by the way. A club is just a legal entity description of what we are for tax purposes and for corporate reasons, but it's not really a club. Where we are is a study group. We are studying communication and leadership. We are studying communication and leadership. So if you were to tell your friends, I'm going to Toastmasters Club, or if you tell your friends, I'm going every week or every 2 weeks, once every 2 weeks, to a study group where we are studying communication and leadership, makes a huge difference. It also makes a huge difference in the terms of how you prepare, how you use your pathways, how you do your projects, because now you're in a study group studying communication and leadership. You are reframing your experience, therefore the work that you're going to put in will be different. You're a student in one of the best communication and leadership organizations in the world. We are celebrating 100 years on October the 22nd. Yay! It has been the best communication and leadership program out there. That's why it survived 100 years. So are you acting like you belong in a place that is teaching communication and leadership? Are you preparing, planning? Are you understanding the dynamics of speaking? Are you ingrained in the foundational key skills? Are you owning your journey? Are you taking charge of your journey? Are you doing what it takes to find your authentic voice? And how do you do that, by the way? Here's a summary of everything that we've talked about. The structure and the organization. Now you all know what I'm talking about, right? Structure and organization of a presentation, the clarity of the message, the use of evidence, I'm summarizing, the engagement with the audience, the language and the rhetoric and the words, and how I'm going to use my vocal variety and all that stuff, the delivery skills, and either my Zoom presence right here as it is here, or my stage presence if I was in a physical setting, what that stage presence would be and how I'm moving on the stage. And any presentation, am I summarizing at the end, which I just did for you guys? This is my summary. So that makes a presentation worth listening to. I hope it was worth listening to me, and I hope you are going to find your voice, ladies and gentlemen. We are celebrating 100 years, and this is the secrets to finding your authentic voice. Back to you, Anne Golden.